most powerful tool we have access to is being able to simulate through our imaginations. And this is something known as thought experiments, where you test out ideas and clarify your thinking. Thought experiments are experiments you do in your head, which have some obvious advantages over actual experiments. Like, you don't have to pay for these types of experiments that you have in your mind. Think of all those times you wanted to do something but didn't genuinely want to commit to the responsibilities of it, or even the risk of it. So you can instead imagine taking those risks and committing to those responsibilities without forcing anyone to suffer the consequences of the outcomes. So you can conduct these without having to invest your time, your energy, or even money or resources to it as well, which is what is amazing about thought experiments. And you can even do experiments that may seem impossible or impractical because your imagination is the limit. For example, if you put someone in a closed elevator who is super glued to the floor and somehow was transported to outer space without noticing, and then pulled an upward force at an accelerating rate, would he notice he was in space? Or would he still think he was in planet Earth, being pulled down by gravity? This thought experiment sounds, I know, very strange and weird, but that's the power about thought experiments. You can use your creativity and your imagination without any investment of risk or any consequences as well. And this is something actually that Albert Einstein did come up with. And this helped him develop the general theory of relativity. He realized the answer was no, as the two experiences would feel very much the same. And so it helped him be able to formulate ideas about gravity, which has helped us in a lot in science and in our world especially as well. I also found a lot of these great scientists that I used to read when I was in primary school, because I was that one kid who would always be interested in learning about the real world, the people that actually existed. So I always liked reading non-fiction rather than reading about fiction. I wasn't really as much interested in fiction at that time. So when I was reading so much about Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, and even great conquerors as well, like Spartacus and etc., I realized a lot of these great scientists, well, Spartacus wasn't a scientist, he was a warrior, but I realized that a lot of these great scientists and innovators in the world had practiced this type of mental model and skill, especially Isaac Newton. Like, when he observed the apple falling from the tree, he questioned and he thought, how did that happen? What is making that? What force is impacting the apple to fall from the tree? And then that led him to discovering the laws of motion that we know to this day, and the fundamental of mechanics, essentially, as he had a lot of these other thoughts that were happening in his mindset. Hence, by allowing us to think through consequences of impractical or impossible scenarios, thought experiments can clarify a lot of our own ideas about something and our thinking as well. For example, what would you do if money was an object? This question might sound very odd to you, but if you think of it as an object, then it removes the value or conventional idea we have of what money is from our mind, and makes us think very deeply that we'd want to do things for our own sake rather than just chasing after something for a form of validation. So it makes you think very deeply about what you do, and also you come towards the conclusion that we all actually want a sense of freedom, whether that's location freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, or even all three of them. Well, ideally everyone wants all three. That it's not really just the money or the materialistic goods or the Louis Vuitton, the Bugatti, the Rolex watch, and all of these things. These are, at the end of the day, should be the byproduct of us fulfilling our higher order purpose that we want to do, and resonates with our core. As no object is going to really last forever, right? No matter how grand of an object it is, it can literally be a Nokia phone that falls off from like a tower and then it doesn't break. It's unbreakable. but it's not going to last forever. At some point, it'll weather away, it'll deteriorate away. Yeah, even Nokia's. Any object will not last forever. Anything you build will not last forever. Any business you have that's, you're not going to remember. Like this chair I'm sitting on right now, no one even knows who was the first person that created the first chair. Or the person that created the first chair. The desk that we use, the bed that we sleep on. These are the things. Imagine living a life without any of these three objects that we have. No one even remembers who built any of these things, such that that legacy or that person is forgotten. It's like, it makes you think that when we're trying to get validation based upon like other people, we're giving that power to other people to how we should value ourselves. Do you realize that everything in a way just becomes nothingness? We disappear into nothingness. We're born and we disappear into nothingness. It's about what we do in between that we define, I think, which is what is important and what you really value, especially. And I think that's what is very important, being authentic with yourself and defining what you want in life. People get lost in this mindset of, how do I know? Instead of saying, how do I know? Just define what you want it to be. That's it. That will end that procrastination route and existential crisis. And so after learning that, money is an object, or if it was an object, you had a thought experiment, you might even consider quitting your job, probably doing something that you always wanted to do, or doing like a different role instead of something that's like more specialized in your skill. Like you're probably someone who's a manager at McDonald's, or someone who's doing like a role as a financial analyst, but you never really wanted to do that, and you want to do coding. Then it's just like, instead of the money or the pay, you just do it, and you just do the coding and you upskill and etc. and you get to that anyways. You pursue after something like that, or you want to teach, whatever it is, something that you resonate with, your higher order purpose. Maybe you'd want to spend more time with your family and friends. Maybe you'd start to learn new skills or hobbies, or gain more interest in other things, activities. Maybe it's all of the above after you realize that. The question simply allowed you, right? That simple question, that simple thought experiment allowed you to gain a better idea and perspective of what you really value in your life. An action step I recommend is, when it comes to decision making, especially very important ones, fast forward to a future where you've made both choices, realizing the consequences and risk as every force, going back to Isaac Newton's law, has an equal and opposite reaction. Imagine the outcomes of each of these decisions and evaluate which one would you regret less. At the end of the day, we all choose our regrets that we want to live with. This can help you make choices that align with your long-term values and goals. And if you liked and enjoyed this video, then give it a like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next part.